These are the easiest languages for an English speaker to learn. They are Category 1 languages according to the classification of the Foreign Service Institute. The Category 1 languages have lexical similarities with English, which means that many words have similar roots and sometimes they are even borrowed from English. These languages require 23 to 24 weeks to master, which is about 575 to 600 class hours. Like English, they usually use letters from the modern Latin alphabet. These languages also use the SVO sentence structure as well, subject plus verb plus object. For instance, if I want to say, I eat an apple in French, it'd be translated like this. This is the Spanish translation, the Italian one, and then the Dutch one. This is different for a Category 2 language like German, which requires about 30 weeks or 750 class hours to master. German has more complex grammatical structures compared to Category 1 languages, which can be a bit more challenging for English speakers. German uses 4 grammatical cases: nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. German nouns have 3 genders: masculine, feminine, and neutral. So it's different than Category 1 languages like Spanish, which only have 2. German also has unique compound words and terms that describe very specific concepts, like this word, which means pleasure derived from another's misfortune. There can also be some pronunciation challenges with the guttural R and the umlaut vowel. Although German uses the Latin alphabet, there are some additional characters like the SZ or sharp S, as in Strasse, A as in Mädchen, as in Hören, and U as in Mutter. As opposed to the SVO, German sentence structures are more flexible. Some people suggest that Esperanto is the easiest language to learn, as it was intended to be a universal language, a lingua franca, if you will. Esperanto only has 16 basic rules, so it is very regular. All nouns end in O, and for the plural form, we add J. For example, house is domo, and houses is domos. All adjectives end in A, so a beautiful house would be bela domo, and beautiful houses would be belaj domos. There is only one definite article in Esperanto, and it is la. This definite article doesn't change no matter what the gender, number, or case of the article is. There are pretty much 8 basic personal pronouns in Esperanto, like in English: me, vi, li, she, she, ni, vi, ili. Verbs do not change for person or number. For instance, to eat is manjas, and it is conjugated in the present tense as follows. Just like in English, the verbs do change for tense, so the past tense of this verb would be mi manjis, vi manjis, li, she, ji manjis, ni manjis, vi manjis, ili manjis. If you want to form a negative phrase, there are no double negatives. You just use the negative marker ne. So if you want to say I don't have it, that'd be mi ne havas ĝin. In Esperanto, the indefinite article changes the noun. For instance, car is auto, and I have a car is mi havas auton. There are no gender distinctions in nouns and adjectives, just like English. So these are the sort of things that you would encounter in Spanish, for instance. So to ask a question, you just need to use the word tu at the beginning. For instance, you will come is vi venos. Will you come is tu vi venos. Another advantage with Esperanto is that there are no irregular verbs or forms, so no exceptions to the rules we've previously discussed. The downside is it's a made-up language. It's a constructed language, or conlang. It was invented in 1887 by Polish ophthalmologist Zamenhof. Today, there are about 2 million Esperantists around the world, which makes it the most widespread conlang to date. Another thing that might determine the easiest language to learn is cultural exposure. The more prominent a language is, the more it's used in media and on the internet, the easier it might appear to be. In the 21st century, English might seem to be easier to lots of people due to how widespread it is. If you're a polyglot, you may also find it easier to learn additional languages due to develop cognitive flexibility and different linguistic structures. We can also determine the easiest language by looking at the morphology of these languages, meaning looking at how they use and form words. If your language language has the same morphology as the target language, it's going to be easier for you to pick it up. Language morphology is kind of a spectrum, ranging from analytic to synthetic. Now, no natural language is purely analytic or purely synthetic. They all exist on the spectrum based on how they use morphemes. You can think of a morpheme as each word being a single block, the smallest unit of meaning in a language. So the word cat has one morpheme because it has meaning by itself, and the word cats has two morphemes, cat, the animal, and s, which means more than one in English. So we have isolating languages like Mandarin Chinese and Vietnamese. In these languages, words are usually made up of single morphemes, just like a complete Lego block. So they don't have to be connected to other blocks to have meaning. Some languages are agglutinative languages. These languages take morphemes together, like beads on a string. You string them to form words, but you can still see each individual bead. Think of languages like Turkish and Japanese. For instance, this is the word for we are at our school in Turkish, and here is the breakdown. Fusional or inflectional languages also add morphemes that blend together and represent multiple meanings, like mixing different colors to get a new color. A language like Spanish does this. For instance, if you want to say I speak in Spanish, you would say hablo, which carries a lot of different meanings. That single word means one person is talking about themselves, describing a general quality using the present tense. It's in the indicative mood, meaning it affirms an action. So for fusional languages like Spanish, the word endings carry a wealth of information. So a single suffix may indicate the person who's doing the action, the number, whether the subject is singular or plural, the tense, when the action is happening, the mood, how the action is viewed, and the aspect, which is the nature of the action, which conveys whether it's ongoing or completed. Then we have polysynthetic languages, which create long words that can stand for whole sentences by essentially gluing lots of morphemes together. For instance, this is the word for I can't hear very well in the Inuit language, Inuktitut. This combines 7 morphemes. So we have hear, well, able to, not, very much, the mood marker, and the first person singular. So 2 things to notice. It'd be easier to learn a language that has the same morphology as your native language. And secondly, polysynthetic languages at least look very difficult because they have very long sentence words that combine various morphemes together that may or may not be able to stand alone. Now, let's turn our attention to the speaker themselves. What would make it easy for an individual to learn a specific language? Well, it's all about similarity, meaning essentially what you're used to. First, the similarity with your native language, including phonetic similarity, may help. If a language sounds like your native language, well, it's easier to pick it up. That goes without saying. Reading is a big part of language learning as well. So if the writing system is the same, it will be easier for you to read in the target language, therefore being able to learn that language. We also have motivation. Some people inherently love languages. This makes it easier for them because they enjoy it. Your language journey may help as well. If you've learned a second language already, it will be easier for you to learn a third language, and so on. And last but not least, we have your language learning aptitude. Look, some people are just good at this stuff. They are just able to acquire languages easier than others.